Big story coming in from strife-torn Lebanon. The latest information that's coming in, Israel has struck at the central command headquarters of Hezbollah in Beirut. Israeli forces have hit right in the heart of Beirut in the Dahieh area, and this is a Hezbollah stronghold. The Israeli Defense Forces, and you can just look at those massive plumes of smoke that are rising. The IDF has described this as the underground central headquarters of the Hezbollah, and apparently Israel claimed it had very specific intelligence inputs that Hassan Nasrallah, the chief of Hezbollah, was at the headquarters when the missile strike took place. And look at these huge plumes of smoke that are rising from Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. And this is the headquarters. This is the Dahieh area, the suburbs of Beirut. This is the headquarters of Hassan Nasrallah. The target of the attack on Hezbollah's central headquarters in the Dahieh district in Beirut is the organization's Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah's main workstation, main office is what we are being told. And the Israeli Defense Forces spokesperson Daniel Hagari has said that the headquarters is located close to residential buildings in what is known as a Hezbollah stronghold. 4 buildings were devastated in the missile strike. It's a very powerful missile that has struck a residential area. Just today, the Health Ministry had said that 700 people had been killed in the current phase of Israeli airstrikes and missile strikes. 700 killed, over 2,600 injured. As you go through these images, you can see how the emergency workers, rescue teams, fire brigades, and next of kin, relatives, they are looking to see if there are any survivors after this massive Israeli airstrike. The IDF in a statement said, and I quote, "The Israel Defense Forces carried out a precise strike on the central headquarters of the Hezbollah terror organization that served as the epicenter of Hezbollah terror," unquote. Information that we're getting in. 6 buildings, initially we were told 4, but now information coming in. 6 buildings were completely gutted in this attack that took place in the Dahieh area. An underground bunker was bombed in Lebanon in this district. We'll get you what the IDF spokesperson said, but for a moment I want you to just understand how Israel is moving about this operation. And during the course of this broadcast, we'll get you details of virtually the entire top leadership of Hezbollah has been targeted in the first couple of days of this conflict. It started with those pager bombs, the pager attacks, where the tactical leadership, by some accounts, over 1,000 Hezbollah fighters were neutralized or taken out of action, over 1,000. And they were the ones who would receive instructions and carry out those instructions that came from this headquarters. Before I get you more on this big story, let's listen in to what the Israeli Defense Forces had to say after the strike.
Moments ago, the Israel Defense Forces carried out a precise strike on the central headquarters of the Hezbollah terror organization that served as the epicenter of Hezbollah's terror. Hezbollah's central headquarters was intentionally built under residential buildings in the heart of the Dahieh in Beirut, as part of Hezbollah's strategy of using Lebanese people as human shields. On October 8th, Hezbollah started attacking Israel. After almost a year of Hezbollah firing rockets, missiles, and suicide drones at Israeli civilians, after almost a year of Israel warning the world and telling them that Hezbollah must be stopped, Israel is doing what every sovereign state in the world would do if they had a terror organization that seeks their destruction on their border, taking the necessary action to protect our people so that Israeli families can leave their homes safely and securely.
India Today is the only channel to have a reporter on ground to get you the latest. Also joining me, we have Ashraf Vani joining me in a moment. We also have Zehra Al-Derzi joining me on this broadcast, a Lebanese journalist. And Zehra, what can you tell us? Zehra, what can you tell us about this missile strike? Any word on Hassan Nasrallah?
Okay, 45 minutes, huge explosions were heard around the Lebanese capital, Beirut. The airstrikes happened in the area of Haret Tahrik, where the central headquarters of Hezbollah also are located. Despite the Israeli military are speaking about the assassination of the Secretary General of Hezbollah, but still there is no comment by the Lebanese group. Meanwhile, an Iranian agency called Tasnim quoted security sources saying that the Secretary General Nasrallah is in a safe place and he was not assassinated. These airstrikes, maybe 10 airstrikes targeted 10 buildings in the southern suburb of Beirut. It's a residential area, and so the civil defenses teams are working to put out fire and also to evacuate the injuries. The number of injuries and casualties may be very high due to the traffic and also the population of this area. Still, we won't be able to confirm who was the target or who was assassinated in such strike until the Hezbollah release at least a statement.
Stay with me for a moment, Zehra. Let me also bring in Ashraf Vani into this conversation. India Today's Ashraf Vani is in Beirut even as we speak. And Ashraf, any word on the casualties? Just today, the health ministry apparently said 700 killed, over 2,600 injured.
Goro, I am just 1 kilometer away from the spot where these airstrikes were carried out by the Israeli Defense Forces. I heard here in my hotel a heavy and hard bang of the bombs and the missiles. And when I rushed outside, I saw the chaos all across the Beirut. In fact, the buildings behind me are always very lighted up with the lights, but now you can see they are dark because there is that kind of chaos that the Beirut, any place in the Beirut is not safe, even this place where I am currently sitting. But one thing is clear, that the amount of the explosive used in today's strike, some say 2,000 kilograms of bomb, which was the target of Israeli Defense Forces to penetrate that as per the Israeli army. That underground headquarters, which was the meeting point and the position of the Hassan Nasrallah to make speeches for the public here in the suburb of the Beirut Dahia. But early in the morning today, I was in the same area. Almost the area is vacated by the Hezbollah members as well as the leaders after the recent 3 strikes in a row for last 3 days. And today it was the 4th strike, but the major strikes. And what we are getting from the sources that there are all efforts on to rescue the people who are trapped in the buildings, because there are 6 buildings which had been hit, which have damaged, and the number of vehicles, because it is a very popular and densely populated area of the Beirut here in Lebanon.
Dahia is seen as a stronghold of the Hezbollah. What I want to understand from you, Zehra, is how is it that Israel is able to target the entire top leadership of Hezbollah? The fact that they were able to neutralize Fuad Shukr, the fact that they were able to neutralize Mohammad Hussein Surur, the drone chief or the air chief of Hezbollah, what does this indicate? Who is giving out all this information?
Yes, okay. Since the attack of the pagers, we knew and Hezbollah knew that there is a huge breach in Hezbollah, but also Israel has a very advanced intelligence technologies, and it is supported. It's not working alone. It's supported by also another intelligences from different countries. But here we are speaking about that Israel is crossing a very higher red lines. It crossed the red lines for Hezbollah by attacking the southern suburb of Beirut in Dahi. But it seems very clear that Israel doesn't care anymore about any red line, as it is.
You know, even as we speak, there is news coming in that there is an emergency meeting that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has held in New York. He's in a security huddle. Even as we speak, information that we are getting seems to indicate that Israel informed the United States shortly before the attack on the Hezbollah headquarters. Israel informed the United States of the attack on the central headquarters of Hezbollah in the Dahieh part, on the outskirts of Beirut, shortly before this attack was carried out. And information we are getting seems to indicate that not one, not two, but 10 strikes, multiple buildings have been targeted in this. And Ashraf, this would indicate that this conflict is all set to escalate in the days ahead, because I believe the Houthi rebels have also targeted a US ship, indicating that this conflict is escalating on all sides.
Yes, Gaurav. Now, as you said that the Netanyahu has already informed US about this strike in advance, that means that now the Iran could not remain so calm, because basically this is a wound on the Iran in the name of Hezbollah here in the Lebanon. And a few days back, we understand when the top leadership of the Hezbollah was assassinated by the IDF, what was the response of the supreme leader of Iran? That is one point. Another point is that Hezbollah will not remain calm. They will try to attack more and more, because they have settled that kind of weaponry which could hit any area of the Israel. And in the coming hours or in the coming days, we can see a kind of a response, whether that could be filed by the Israeli Defense Forces, but there will be definitely an action by the Hezbollah also.
This looks like massive escalation. Even as we speak, Ashraf, stay with me, and Zehra, do you see this conflict escalating on all sides? The fact that Houthi rebels have targeted a US ship, at least they've claimed that they've attempted to target a US ship. The fact that now it is being said that Hezbollah will strike back. They've already used a missile to target Tel Aviv, which Israel says did not succeed. But how do you see this pan out in the days ahead, Zehra?
Yes, well, we know that the forces of the so-called the axis of resistance still coordinated together, and this is what explains the Yemeni attacks on the U.S. ships, and also the Iraqi drones reaching to Haifa, and also Hezbollah is striking from southern Lebanon, and Hamas is striking from Gaza. So all the indications are clearly that we are going to a more and more escalation, and the involvement of all these parties. And in additional, if Iran got also involved in a direct way, because we know that Iran support Hezbollah financially and
yes,
with weapons. So in an indirect way, it is involved. But now I think that we reached a stage that all the parties of this axis will be very clearly involved against Israel. There is no point to get back maybe to negotiations or any, since the escalation reached such level of tension.
So you see an escalation happen. Ashraf, where you are in Beirut, the top leadership of Hezbollah are in the line of fire, and even in Iran, the leadership is not safe. After all, Ismail Haniyeh was neutralized inside the presidential compound in Tehran. So this would indicate that Mossad, or whichever is the agency that's tracking the movement of Hezbollah or Hamas, they are at least a couple of steps ahead of the movement of the axis of resistance, as it's called.
Yes, absolutely, Gaurav. But so far, the warning in the United Nations given by the Netanyahu is very important aspect, where he has directly warned the Iran if they are going to target Israel, and Israel will respond within the minutes or hours, we can say. That was a kind of an indication towards the Iran that if they have yet to take the revenge of the assassination of Ismail Hania, what their supreme leader has
Okay.
publicly committed and said. But one thing is clear, that uh, as my colleague journalist was saying, that all the means and ways for the negotiations for the ceasefire had already failed. The
Yes.
four countries which were chosen by the Americans, Turkey, Qatar, and the French were two parties were said to negotiate with the Israel. Americans
Okay.
as well as the French, and the
Absolutely.
parties like
They recommended a 21-day ceasefire, and
Qatar was
Benjamin
also
Netanyahu said no to it. Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. Ashraf Wani and Zeral Darzi, for the moment, for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks. In the midst of all of this, remember, both the United States and France sought a 21-day ceasefire. And information from White House seems to indicate that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had agreed to a 21-day ceasefire, at least verbally. But as soon as he landed in New York for the United Nations General Assembly, he said there's absolutely no question of a ceasefire. They've eliminated some of the top leaders of Hezbollah, and this fight will continue till the time the Israelis in northern Israel are safe from Hezbollah missile and rocket attacks. Lebanon's ministers are saying this war has to stop, or Lebanon as a country may face dire consequences. Take a look at this ground report. Ashraf Wani reports.
Counter strikes and a trail of destruction. The Israel-Hezbollah war is spiraling. Over 1,500 have been killed since October 8th last year. An Israeli raid on Beirut's southern suburbs on Thursday claimed 15 more lives, further inflaming tensions. In retaliation, the Hezbollah, backed by Iran, fired 80 rockets into Israel's northern city of Safed. But Israel's Iron Dome defense system has kept the damage largely in check. India Today's Ashraf Wani is on the ground in Lebanon's capital, Beirut, reporting first-hand from the epicenter of the conflict, the only Indian journalist in the war zone.
Tension here is also mounting. We otherwise see the lot of activity on these seashores and on these sea lines here in the Beirut, but currently there is not any kind of a movement. People are very much we can say desperate that what is going to happen in the coming days here, not only in the Lebanon but also in the Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Mohammed, what kind of difficulties you are facing due to the ongoing war here in the Lebanon?
Israel is not just torturing Palestine, but Lebanon too. Thousands of people have been killed in Israel attack, and businesses in nearby countries affected due to Israel.
Lebanon's foreign minister, Abdallah Abu Habib, issued a desperate plea for a ceasefire, warning that his country is on the brink of collapse.
Lebanon is living through a crisis that threatens its very existence. The future of our people and prosperity are in peril, and this is a situation that requires international intervention on an urgent basis before the situation spirals out of control with a domino effect, making this crisis impossible to contain.
Israel, on the other hand, faces a new challenge. Air raid sirens in capital Tel Aviv went off as Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen fired missiles on the city, vowing solidarity with Gaza and Palestine. The Houthi attacks have sparked fears that the conflict could spill over and widen into other regions. Meanwhile, protests erupted in New York, where demonstrators labelled Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as a war criminal, demanding his arrest ahead of his UN address. But Netanyahu is defiant. Arriving in the United States, Netanyahu doubled down, declaring that the Israeli military will continue pounding the Hezbollah with full force until victory is secured.
Our policy is clear. We are continuing to hit Hezbollah with full force, and we will not stop until we achieve all our goals. First and foremost, returning the residents of the north safely to their homes.
As Israel escalates its lethal strikes on Lebanon, many are wondering if Netanyahu has an exit plan, or will the war drag in more players in West Asia. With Ashraf Wani in Beirut, Lebanon, Bureau Report, India Today.
The other big story we're tracking here on India Today, after the Hezbollah, Houthi rebels have also targeted Israel once again. The Houthis have launched a missile and multiple drones from Yemen. But all the missiles and drones have been intercepted by both the Iron Dome system and the David Sling, Israel's near-perfect missile defense shield. It's a big escalation in the conflict in West Asia. Remember, some of the Hezbollah leaders were in Yemen training the Houthi rebels in the use of longer-range missiles. Let's get you more on the story.
انتصارا لمظلومية الشعب الفلسطيني ودعما وإسنادا للمقاومتين الفلسطينية واللبنانية، وفي إطار المرحلة الخامسة نفذت القوات المسلحة اليمنية بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية استهدفت من خلالها هدفا عسكريا تابعا للعدو الإسرائيلي في منطقة يافا المحتلة تل أبيب، وذلك بصاروخ باليستي نوع فلسطين 2، واستهدفت كذلك هدفا حيويا في منطقة عسقلان المحتلة بطائرة مسيرة نوع يافا، وقد حققت العمليتان أهدافهما بنجاح.
The situation is escalating and rapidly in West Asia, and we'll be tracking that story very, very closely. I want to leave you with these images of a massive Israeli airstrike on the central headquarters of Hezbollah in Lebanon, in Beirut. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. Stay with us.